Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of the Urban Ag Hour podcast. Today, I'm here with Nicole Clements from the Maricopa County Farm Bureau, and we're going to ask her some questions, and she's going to teach us all about the programs that she has there. So, how are you doing this morning?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming. So, for listeners who may not be familiar, can you explain in plain terms exactly what Maricopa County Farm Bureau is?
Yeah, so Maricopa County Farm Bureau, we're a grassroots organization. So first off, we are membership driven. So every decision and thing that we advocate for is stemmed from topics that are issues of concern from our membership. And being grassroots, we have County Farm Bureau, which is what we do. We have Arizona State Farm Bureau, and then we also have American Farm Bureau. So there's a lot of levels of transparency there, and also, you know, everything that American Farm Bureau does in Washington, D.C. originated from a county somewhere. Okay. So it's a true representation of, you know, what grassroots really means to work for their membership.
Awesome. I didn't know it stemmed from like one county to grow into this big nationwide thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really neat to learn about that one. Historically, the Farm Bureau has been associated with large-scale farmers. Why do you think perception exists and how accurately it is today?
So when we think about agriculture in a historical sense, right? So traditionally, when you think of a farmer, it's always been kind of one vision, right? You say farmer and you think of an older guy in bib overalls, and you know that's the first thing that comes to everybody's mind. And traditionally that was the case, right? For a long time. I myself grew up on a farm in Missouri, and when you think about kind of the scale of farming at that level, it was always to be taken kind of on a serious note. It was always the larger farmers, right? But now, with the change in our food systems and the change in kind of how we operate as a nation when it comes to agriculture, you still have that traditional ag, right? You still have guys that are farming 5,000 acres. But what we've seen a lot is this increase in urban agriculture and even rural agriculture, but smaller operations, right? This more specified and maybe diversified operation versus one guy that's growing 5,000 acres of just corn and beans. Yeah. So it's kind of, we have both, we need both, right? And Farm Bureau is just growing along with the times. So we've, you know, just traditionally always represented the farmers. And when what a farmer looks like and how they operate change, so does Farm Bureau. So, you know, it's kind of that best of both worlds. You know, we need both to supply our nation and the world with food. But it's really interesting to me to see like how we just keep adapting with the times and, you know, are a true representation of what our demographic is, right? And so our demographic of farmers here in Maricopa County is going to look a lot different than what the demographic of farmers is, say, in Boone County, Iowa, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you get kind of that grassroots and representation from all these different areas, because when you think of America as a country, like we're massive, we're huge.
Yeah.
And so our regions vary so differently.
Oh yeah, I know, like I'm from rural Arizona, and growing up, like hearing all the stories, everyone had like large amounts of land and large acres. But when I was growing up, it was, you know, everyone and their family had like 10, 20 acres. And they had like cows or goats or sheep, or some were even growing crops. So it's definitely like different to see. And then when I moved to Phoenix, I'm like, whoa, everyone has like a quarter acre, and it's even smaller than what I'm used to, than hearing that like I have 1,000 acres in Iowa or Nebraska. And so it is definitely changing. So it's kind of interesting to see how everything's changing.
For sure. And I'm from the Midwest, so it looks a lot different in Missouri and Iowa and Arkansas. But it's really interesting to me to see just how different it is. And if you've kind of always been in your same region and you've never been out and explored, especially agriculture in regions outside of, what it's incredibly interesting, which is kind of one of my favorite parts of like our American Farm Bureau annual conventions is because you get to interact with people from all over the country, and it's just incredibly fascinating. Like, I learned about oyster farming from someone on the East Coast, and that was like one of the coolest things that I think to this day stands out in my mind, is just kind of getting to learn and grow and experience agriculture in other places.
Oh yeah, it's always so different everywhere, which is something that I also enjoy kind of learning about, even with like different sizes and scales and stuff. So if I'm a small farmer listening right now, why should I care about what the Farm Bureau does?
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of time, especially if you're a smaller operation or maybe, just very specific operation, it's kind of this feeling of what can Farm Bureau actually do for me, which I understand because, traditionally we haven't seen representation maybe as much with those smaller operations. But with Maricopa County, that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Like, we're so dichotomous. We have our big ag, and we have our urban ag, our smaller operations and specialty guys, which is a big part of what we do. And I think the biggest thing that I could stress to people about why it's important to be an active participant in Farm Bureau is that collective voice. So when you're out there on your own and you're facing all these struggles, especially in this economy. So we look at inflation, we look at land prices, and all of these barriers that make it more difficult each and every day to continue an agriculture operation, right? No matter the scale. But how do you feel like you can get your voice across and your concerns about these issues to those that matter and are making those decisions, right? So when you think about your state legislature, your local legislature, and even, your federal legislature, as one voice, it feels really intimidating. But if you're a part of that Farm Bureau voice, like, that's a collective message and a collective voice from a large group of people who are just like you and facing the same struggles that you are. And that makes that message that much more impactful and helps really kind of hammer home the importance of what we do. And I think I feel that a lot, especially with the smaller guys. I grew up on a smaller farm for Missouri standards, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just extremely intimidating. And when you're facing these struggles, you kind of almost feel like you're out on an island alone. And like, you can sit around in the coffee shop and talk about with your other cohorts about how difficult it is, but how do you really kind of move the needle and get things accomplished to fix these issues, right? It's collectively. And that's what Farm Bureau is about.
Okay. Yeah, I know, like, my family, we have 10 acres. And then when I went to college, everyone that I was meeting was like, well, I have 1,000 acres. I have 5,000 acres. I'm like, we are not the same, but like, we wanted the same thing. So it's nice to hear that being a part of the Farm Bureau, no matter what size you are, you can all come together to make that change on what's needed.
Absolutely.
So it is really nice to hear that.
Yeah, it's a collective voice, no matter the size, no matter the crop, no matter, anything about how specific your operation can be. And I think the best part of it is, well, now you're like, well, does it really pay for me to be a member? And our dues for agriculture members are $180 per year. And so I think, especially in 2025, like that feels like a really good price, like a really good value for me, even if I'm a smaller operation, because that for less than $200 a year and I can get representation like this, I think that's incredibly important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's very important, I would say. What current policies or regulations most directly impact small farms in Maricopa County, and how is the Farm Bureau addressing them?
Good question. So we've done a lot of work to try to engage with our smaller farmers in Maricopa County, and we continue to do that, right? We're all over Maricopa County, which is a lot of driving, but we really want to hear from them and see what their issues are. And one that we've been continuously working on, I would say, for about the last year is ag land use classification. There's been, some issues with our operations that are 20 acres and under, of them losing their ag land status. And, that's a critical thing, right? That tax bill, when you get moved out of ag, is significant. It could put some operations out of business. And that's the last thing that we want to see. And so that's just one topic that we've been continuously working on. We've had discussions with the assessor's office on how do we work together on this, right? Like, we all want the same things. We want to make sure that if it is classified as ag land, that it is genuinely being used for that purpose. We want the same thing. So how do we make this work for both of us, right? And the problem with that is you run into a lot of regulation, right? As you do with anything in any sort of government situation. But again, it's that consistency. We're a bug in their ear all the time. When we have people that have issues with it, bring it to us so we know. And I think that's one of the big things that I stress to my members is I can hear about things, in the news or in newsletters or in press releases. But sometimes if it's your story about your operation, we don't know about it unless you say something, right?
Right.
And so that's on our website, the phone number, you can reach me there at any time. My email is always open. You can text me. You can send us a DM on social media. Get a hold of us any way that you can. But, our lines are always open.
Right.
We want to hear from you. And we want to know, what are the issues that are plaguing you in your operation? And let's make a plan. How do we tackle those?
Yeah. So getting in contact with you guys and sharing the stories that people are having issues with, is that the best way to kind of get that story out there and share that to all our state representatives?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So if you can because the thing is you may be having this issue and a bunch of other people are probably having the same issue, right? But we don't know about it because, we don't know unless we share about it. Nowadays, in 2025, social media is a way that most people are sharing. So, I post on social media, right, for Farm Bureau. I also intake a lot and try to be hyper-local about it so I can be up to date on what's happening in our area, right? So, the first thing, if you have a problem with something, right, it seems like the first thing somebody does is whip out their phone and they're going to record a video about it or they're going to post about it, right? So just trying to stay on top of that. But again, if it's specific to you, just bring it to us and let us know, because a lot of times it's hard for us to really know what's going on unless you say something. And that's for our traditional guys, our urban guys, our big farmers, small farmers, the whole thing. One of our members recently had an issue and I was like, I had no idea. And it was pretty significant, but I was like, we don't know about these things a lot of times unless you bring it to us. Which is also just, again, kind of the benefit of Farm Bureau, because if we're all having the same problem, let's collectively get together and find a solution.
Good information. Be a part of Farm Bureau. Call Nicole with your issues. They'll help you out. For small farmers who may not have the time or resources to lobby, what are some practical ways they can engage in the policy process through Farm Bureau?
I love this question. So when you say lobby and policy and people are immediately checked out, right? That just sounds like a lot. It's really intimidating. With Farm Bureau, we make it pretty easy. Honestly, we have a whole policy development process. And then we're kind of dwindling down, coming to the end of what I like to call a policy development season. So it starts in May, and we do our issue advisory committees. Okay. And so as a state, we come together with several different committees: livestock, crops, water, land use, labor. And so every county has representatives on each committee, and they come together one day and we have lunch and we sit and discuss what issues of importance there are for each of those topics, right? And so every county has a chance to come together, say, hey, this is what's going on with us. Has anybody else seen this? And we highlight the areas of most importance that we want to tackle as a state. And so that's the first step.
Okay.
And then the second step is our countywide policy development meetings, which Maricopa County, we host 2 of them. They're in June. And so we do one on the east side and one on the west side. And at those, that's another chance for you as a member to come and bring forth your issues that you want to see action taken on, right? And then we also go through and reaffirm or sunset any of our policies. So Farm Bureau, as a state, Arizona Farm Bureau, we look at our policies every 5 years. So we want to make sure that our policy book is current, relevant, and also impactful, right? So this is kind of the playbook of what we go off of when we go to the Capitol. So we want to make sure that it's really accurate. So every 5 years, we take a look at our policies again, and each county takes a look at it. They suggest if it's a sunset policy, which means it goes away. If it's a reaffirm, which means we leave it as is and we continue it within the policy book, or we can edit it, right? So we amend it, and then that gets put through to another committee. So there's a lot of steps, like as in anything in policy. But so we do that at our county policy development meetings. Also, great opportunity for you to bring any new issues or things that we want to propose new policy for. And then we vote on those at our county annual meeting, which we just had in August. And as a county, we decide what we're going to push to the state from all of our back research from the IAC meetings, from the policy development meetings. And then in September, so later this month, all of our county representatives for resolutions committee will meet. And so the statewide will have the resolutions committee, and they will work through all of that. So everything from every county that was proposed and sent forth will be looked at by the resolutions committee. And then in November at our state annual meeting, everything will be discussed, amended, voted on, and then solidified to be in our statewide policy book for the next 5 years. And so it sounds like a lot, and it is. But as we work through it, there's so many opportunities for us to either amend and continue policy that maybe we've had on the books for a long time, and maybe that's evolved just like agriculture's evolved so much. And so 5 years, that's a lot. So we have that opportunity. We have the opportunity for a new policy, and we have the opportunity to look at something and say, hey, this isn't even really relevant anymore, and it's taking up space. So let's just sunset that. And, if it comes up again at a later date, well, now there's an opportunity. We can look at it then as a new policy. But it's a complicated process, but I think Farm Bureau really does a great job of kind of giving the power back to our membership and letting them drive what we're doing, right? It's at the heart of everything that we do. Every time, I put on my suit and I step foot at the Capitol in Phoenix, I'm there representing my farmers and what their needs are. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And again, we don't know there's an issue if you don't say anything, though. So, membership in Farm Bureau is a beautiful thing, but you're really going to get the most out of it when you're engaged in it. So, when we're sending the notices out that you're attending the meetings and bringing forth your issues, and, you don't have to be at every single thing. You don't have to, it's not going to eat up all your time, but it really pays to at least be communicative with us.
Right.
So.
Yeah, a lot of hard work from you guys. And really what's needed is the voices from our farmers and ranchers so that you guys can continue to do all that hard work.
Yeah, it's, I could say it over and over and over again. But for what I do and what we represent, we want to make sure that we're doing that with our best foot forward. And that comes with the information from our membership. And, it is a lot, but I absolutely love this job. I love being able to be that voice for them if they aren't able to, they don't have the time, they don't have the passion, maybe they don't like standing up and speaking in front of people. That's what we're here for. So it's, if you love your job, you never work a day in a life. And
And I think everyone that I've met with the Farm Bureau, they've been amazing. Everyone just seems like they love their job, and you can tell that they genuinely care about well, let's make this change and let's work to make things better for our farmers and ranchers. So I can see that from you, that you do really care.
It's a passion. Yeah. I just spent a couple weeks back at my family farm in Missouri, and that's where it all started. And it just reminded me, just listening to some of our stories, right, from my family in particular, and the struggles that we went through as an operation, it just solidifies, like, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
For people like my dad and people like my sister, and it's really important to me, and I'm not alone in that, right? So like everybody at Farm Bureau has a passion for this in some capacity, and it's really a labor of love.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have you working. How is the Farm Bureau working to bridge the gaps between small and large farmers so that whole agricultural community can thrive together?
Great question. I love that. So Maricopa County, we have this unique dichotomous agriculture system, right? So we have our big traditional guys, we have our urban farmers, smaller operation, a lot of new and beginning farmers, which is, I love to see personally. And so, like, how do you bring them together, right? Because, again, back to that, Farm Bureau feels historically very targeted towards, large traditional farmers.
Right.
And I think we do a really good job of kind of bringing them together. So as a county, we host a ton of different events. There's a lot of opportunities to be involved, and some of that includes, like, let's go and tour this operation. So we'll, tour an urban ag operation. We'll tour a traditional operation. But there's opportunity for all of those people to come. So if you're an urban person and you want to come and check out what traditional ag is actually like and see exactly, how they operate, and join us for this tour or this monthly meetup or, whatever the event may be. Same vice versa. We do a lot of tours with our urban guys. Off the top of my head, we've done Agritopia. I know we've done, I think, Duncan Farms before. We have one coming up at Whitfield Nursery. And a lot of our traditional agriculture people will come to those too. So it's just a great opportunity with what we have here to kind of bring everybody together, first of all, and then just show them what it's about, right? Because I think there is a lot of discourse between kind of the two, and they've been traditionally on their own lanes, right? And it's our job, and I think our responsibility, really, to bring everybody together, because we're all working towards a common goal, right? We want to feed people, we want to do it well, and we want to do it sustainably, and we want to do it sustainably for our operation as well, and make sure that we can continue farming, 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now, on whatever that looks like, right? Whether you're growing mushrooms in your backyard, or whether you're going 5,000 acres of alfalfa and cotton and cows, right?
Right.
So it's really interesting, and I think, especially coming from where I do and not seeing a lot of this kind of both sides of agriculture, it's incredibly interesting, and I absolutely love it. But that's kind of our goal, at Maricopa County Farm Bureau. We are really working to bring everybody together, because we're stronger together, our voices are louder together, and we are all working towards the same goals. Right.
I know, like, my family, granted it's in Yavapai County, but a lot of them, they've been attending Farm Bureau events, and the people that they've gotten to meet and network with and just kind of learn everyone's stories on, well, what are you farming on your operation? What are you growing? What are you ranching? Has been like a huge eye-opening thing to my family. And so, like, watching that for them, I'm like, well, people here can do that too.
I think it's so interesting to me that, I think on both sides of it, you wouldn't think that you would really have a lot in common or face the same issues. But when you get together and so you sit down around the lunch table, and you're like, well, shoot, me too, And so I think that's great for me to kind of see, like, to bring people together and see them connecting. I think that's great too. The greatest thing that you can have, the greatest resource that you can have as someone in agriculture is your resource toolkit, right? And that includes, organizations, but it includes your neighbors and other people in your region, and, other people in the country in agriculture too. You never know what you can learn. And so it's really great. I love to bring the people together and make sure that they're getting these resources and getting the opportunities to not only share their voice but hear from other voices too.
And even like watching my aunt start her operation, it really is all about community. Like without the help and the resources and neighbors and friends, like she would have been like, I have no idea what's going on.
Absolutely.
What am I doing? So it is 100% the community resources. So it's good to have Farm Bureau help.
We call it the Farm Bureau family.
Yeah.
Sounds a little cheeky, but it really is. It really is. And I'm almost 4 years in Arizona now that I've lived, and have kind of just been a part of this Farm Bureau family in some capacity since I moved here. And it truly is. And I've met some of the best people. I've learned so much and just continue learning every day. But we don't use the family term lightly, right? Like we're all there for each other, whether it's the good times or the bad times, or if you need help or you just have a question, like you can pick up the phone and really reach out and utilize. And that's what we're here for. Yeah.
Before you came to Arizona, were you involved in whatever state's Farm Bureau that you were in?
So we were members. We've been Farm Bureau members, my family in Missouri, since before I was born. I wasn't really active in it though, honestly. We didn't, where I went to college, my bachelor's and my master's, we didn't have like an active YF&R group really. I did some other things. I did rodeo and horse judging and livestock judging and collegiate FFA, but not really anything with the Farm Bureau group. And so it was really interesting when I came here and I started working in Arizona. I started in the dairy industry when we moved here, and I went to one Farm Bureau thing. I had a meeting with someone at Farm Bureau, and I attended one event, and then it was just like it exploded from there, right? Like now I'm going to events all the time. I'm meeting all these people. I have made the best friends. My niece likes to tease me that they're not real friends if you meet them at work. She's also 20. But so, I mean, all of my friends are from work, but because I work in agriculture, those are my people, right?
Right.
And they're urban ag people, they're traditional ag people, and like it really has just been such an experience, and I think something maybe unique to Arizona that our Farm Bureau organization is able to foster these kind of great opportunities for anyone, and especially our young people, our new people that are coming in trying to maybe you have an ag background, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just interested in ag. Or maybe you don't have a background, but you're in agribusiness now and you want to, be more connected and learn more. Like, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. You touched on YF&R. Can you kind of explain how that could be a utilized resource for our new farmers and kind of what our YNFR is too?
Absolutely, yeah. So YF&R, it stands for Young Farmers and Ranchers, right? And it's kind of one of those people like, well, I'm not a farmer or a rancher. I'm, I work at Ag West, or, it's for anybody. And that's it. Anybody ages 18 to 35. But that program really is a great resource, no matter if you're running your own operation or you're working in agriculture, in agribusiness, or if you're just a young person that wants to learn more about ag. It doesn't matter. That's what we're here for. Like, that's the group. And, there's a lot of opportunities there for learning, for leadership, for growth. Going forward, we're going to be hosting quarterly YF&R events, focusing on kind of that like ag education and leadership type thing. Keep an eye out for those on our website. But even statewide, like our whole YF&R program is just really great. There's collegiate YF&R, So if you're attending our universities or community colleges in Arizona, there's opportunities to work within your collegiate group.
Okay.
Of course, U of A has U of A YF&R.
Yeah.
Also, we've started chapters at ASU. GCU is getting a chapter. But if you don't attend any of those schools and you still want to be in YF&R, like, that's okay. You don't have to be just at one of those schools to continue. And then, you know, our kind of career track YF&R. So when you're done with college, then what do you do? Because you can be in YF&R until you're 35. What do those opportunities look like?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a lot of education about the industry, about, you know, any of our current topics. It's also a great opportunity to learn from others. And then I will say it again and again and again, but the leadership value that you pick up in YF&R and in Farm Bureau in general, there's a lot of opportunities. And it's just kind of one of those, if you just say yes and show up, you know, you're going to get something out of it. And I think that's a great part of our YF&R. And that's where I started when I moved here. I think I told you I went to one YF&R dinner thing and I was hooked. And it really has been the opportunity of a lifetime for me. And the people I've met, the growth that I've seen with myself, with, you know, kind of my leadership style and how I look at the rest of my career and what that looks like, it's been extremely beneficial for me. Yeah. We also have a women's leadership program.
Okay.
And it's kind of the same thing, but again, just focused on that. We host, again, quarterly events with Maricopa County Women's Leadership. We do a lot of the tours and stuff. Again, not specific. You don't have to be a woman to show up. It's open to everybody, but it is hosted by our Women's Leadership Committee, and that's part of our outreach that we do. And we also give back to our communities. So like next Tuesday, actually, I don't know when this is coming out, but...
End of September.
Okay, so you'll miss it, but go to our website and keep an eye out for the next one. But we quarterly serve meals at Ronald McDonald House, and just work to support our communities, you know, within agriculture, but also outside of ag, because at the end of the day, we're all in agriculture, right?
Right.
If you eat, if you wear clothes, we're all in ag, and we really support within our community and also outside of it.
Yeah.
It's just a goal of ours. So those programs and the opportunities that are available through those specific programs within Farm Bureau are just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. For anyone that would be interested in joining those programs, would the best way to be going to your guys' website? Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can find membership on our website. If you don't want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody, I understand. You can sign up fully online. There's two different memberships for Farm Bureau. So there's an agriculture membership and there's an associate membership. So an ag membership is for those that are producing, and that comes with voting rights. So when we talk about all this policy development stuff, that's where that really comes in. An associate membership gives you all the benefits of that. It just doesn't come with a voting right. And that's for those that aren't in production agriculture, but are still wanting to be a part of our community, right?
Yeah.
So you can still have all of the benefits of YF&R and women's leadership and all of the different events that we do and the opportunities that we have. You just don't have voting rights when it comes to our policy decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Very tight-knit, allowing everyone in. Land access and generational transition are pressing issues for small farmers. What role can Farm Bureau play in helping solve these?
Great question. It's a topic that we hear a lot about, especially the land prices, but also, you know, the kind of dwindling amount of agricultural land in general, but especially in Arizona. So, you know, there's not a whole lot you can do about land prices, right?
Right.
What you can provide is an opportunity of resources for how do you acquire ag land, right? So within our network of partnerships, so you think about our agribusiness people, so right, that's where they come in. So like our Ag West guys, our land advisors, you know, all that kind of stuff. How do you, if you're not from ag, how do you even know how to go about acquiring farmland? Or what is needed or what's required, or especially in Arizona, when you start talking about water rights and that kind of thing that goes along with the purchase of ag land that if you're not familiar with is incredibly confusing. So that's where we come in with connecting you with those resources, but also, you know, providing the opportunity for that education about what it really looks like. And then when it comes to the generational transition, which is always a tough conversation, but we do our best to provide those resources also. So, you know, you need to talk to a lawyer. Well, shoot, we know several that specialize in this kind of topic, right?
Right.
In fact, at our state annual meeting in November, Arizona Farm Bureau is hosting a Changing Hands seminar, which it's an hour-long seminar for our membership that's going to focus on what those conversations look like and what, you know, passing the farm to the next generation really entails. Because it's kind of one of those, that's the topic that you don't really want to talk about it and you put it off and, oh, I'll get to it. But, you know, all of a sudden, maybe it's too late. And now you've got a mess on your hands. And there's a chance that you could lose part of the farm, all of the farm. And from personal experience, that's devastating. So how do we proactively have these conversations and, you know, understand how important they really are to get ahead of, right? But again, Farm Bureau is that resource. That's our, you know, part of our job. That's why we're here. And if you have questions, absolutely reach out. If you're looking for more information, if you're looking for resources or contacts, man, let us know. That's why we're here.
Yeah. You heard her. You heard the girl. What opportunities exist within the Farm Bureau for small farmers to network, share resources, and learn from each other?
I love it. Our events. I'll say it again. Our events. So on our website, maricopacountyfb.org, we have an events calendar.
Okay.
And so anything that we do is on there. But those opportunities, like when we host those events, that's really the opportunities for you to come together, to collaborate, because we can have those conversations. If we have, you know, say I have several people reaching out about a certain issue, okay, well, let's jump on a call, right? Yeah. So we can set up a video chat, a Zoom call, whatever you want to do, and we can tackle that. But the events are a great opportunity because we have such a diverse attendance that's really, you know, the great space for you to come, learn, network, and really just explore all of the things that not only Farm Bureau has to offer, but just keep adding to your resource toolbox, right? You may meet someone who has an answer to something that you've been looking for. I've seen that happen pretty much at every event that we have. You know, people are meeting each other and going, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I was here and was able to meet you. Let's connect after. And I think that's that residual value of Farm Bureau and attending and being engaged in these events that you can't really put on paper or really see. But the value of it is just incredible.
Yeah. You never know who you're going to meet. Never know.
Never know.
Could be easier if you join the Farm Bureau. What's one piece of advice you give to small farmers about how to make the Farm Bureau work for them rather than feeling like it only works for big farms?
Stay engaged. And that, when I say that, I mean not only just keeping up with, you know, what we're doing on socials, our newsletter, you know, pretty much anywhere you go, you can find out, you know, what we're up to, right? But staying engaged in a way that's beneficial and make it work for you, right? So attending our events, being part of the policy development process, you know, it's never one of those things that I want to call people up and say, hey, we could really use you at this policy development meeting. I want you to be there as a producer because of its benefit for you, right? And just being able to kind of leverage all of these assets that we have. So, you know, being a member, but being an engaged member, that's where the value really is. Like I said, attending these events, getting to know people, all of that is where that, again, residual value really lies within Farm Bureau. So that's my best advice.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, they want to be that change, but they're kind of too scared to do it. They're like, well, someone else will do it. So
Yeah.
Go out there and do it.
It's always somebody else will do it. We'll get there. But when you really have that opportunity to just step up and say, hey, this is my issue, this is what's going on, I want some help. And, before you know it, now 5 other people are standing up with you with the same issue. And now instead of one voice, well, now we've got this collective voice. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, very important, especially for our small farmers out there. Well, Nicole, you've covered a lot of topics today. Very, very valuable information for, honestly, everyone, whether you're a producer in ag or wanting to get started or just wanting to be that support system. One last question I have is, what's one message you would like listeners to take away about the future of farming in Maricopa County?
That's such a great question. And I think maybe a loaded answer, right?
Yeah.
I think when you hear the news and the media, and it feels very almost dystopian for agriculture, right? But I think the future of agriculture for Arizona and Maricopa County specifically is bright and adaptable, are probably 2 words that I would use to describe that. I think when we look at, what ag's going to look like in 5, 10, 30, 40 years, we're going to be here. We still have people to feed. We still have work to do, right? I think we're going to see a lot of innovation and we're going to see a lot of diversity. And I think, kind of the sky's the limit for that kind of stuff. And how we operate as agriculturalists in our region is probably going to change pretty drastically. It kind of already has. If you look from, 10, 15 years ago to where we are now, we just continue to do that. But I think the resilience of farmers and ranchers, that's our greatest asset. We continually work to be the most sustainable, the less impactful on the environment. That's agriculturalists are original environmentalists, right?
Yeah.
We can't work with the land without working for the land. And it's a great opportunity for us to kind of showcase that, especially in these days, with information so readily available. But I think we'll just continue adapting and growing, and that's just kind of the way of the farmer. And that's changed from what it looked like 50 years ago to what it looks like today, But as farmers and ranchers, that's our job and that's our passion. And it's really a community-driven type career. And you have to really love it to be a part of it, because, it's not a glamorous one, but it's one of passion. And our passion stems from serving our communities, but also serving the land. So, you can't work with land without protecting it, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, well, very nice. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming today.
Absolutely.
Is there any other events you'd like to share, where people can reach you in the Farm Bureau and all that, fun promotional stuff?
Absolutely. So our website's maricopacountyfb.org. You can find us there 24/7, 365. My email's also on there, my phone number. Let me know if you have questions. Please reach out. That's what we're here for. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and most recently, TikTok. But you can find us there at Maricopa County FB. Also, if you go to our website, you can sign up for our newsletter. We have monthly newsletters that we send out with updates and opportunities for events. All of our events will be on our website as well. And one last, plug is we also do have a podcast. So you can find us there also, wherever you listen to podcasts, Arizona Agriculture Connection. So I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, if there's anything else, of course, we'll link it in our Instagram or YouTube bio. But again, thank you so much for coming out today. And I'm sure our listeners are going to be so grateful to hear all this wonderful information.
Well, thank you. I thoroughly enjoy the opportunity, and just happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And, hopefully we see some more new faces at our next events.
We look forward to working together in the future.
Absolutely.